morning. Thank you, Transstates, for having me. So I'm going to start by kind of introducing you to these new gloves that I'm going to be performing with today, and talking about my own journey through this, and also how I think it could be of benefit to music and our relationship with our bodies. So a brief history of the new gloves. They were developed in 2010 by Imogen Heap, you can see here, and the Minu team, and they've gradually become more available to artists over the last few years. So Imogen found that when she was performing electronic music at a laptop, she was feeling frustrated, restrictive in the kind of expressiveness that she could get across. She was worried that she came across like to the audience, she's just kind of checking her emails, and she didn't want to feel like she was performing like that. But beyond this, when she then created these magical gloves that you can see on her hands here, full of motion sensors, she had also stumbled across an instrument that molds to the wearer's own physicality rather than us trying to fit our bodies to the instruments that already exist. And so this has implications for accessibility within music for people with disabilities. So for example, Chris Halpin, I'm going to play you a little snippet of, creates at the intersection of music, technology and disability under the name Dyskinetic. And he's got this cool logo here that I love, which is all about not doing things the right way, but taking whatever route you need to get there. He also has cerebral palsy, and about 8 years ago this started to make his career as a guitarist and singer-songwriter difficult. So he turned to Twitter and was directed to Drake Music, who are leaders in accessible music technology. They managed to get hold of one of the first 15 pairs of Minu gloves ever made, and Chris has become an innovator in what we sometimes call gloving. So I'm going to play you a little snippet. I suggest you go and check out all of Dyskinetic stuff, because everything on his channel is beautiful. So like I say, we're short of time, but go and listen to all of that and the rest of Chris's stuff. And beyond music as well, people are experimenting with using the Minu gloves. For example, this is Angie Watson, who has a daughter who is non-verbal, that she is enabling to speak using the gloves. So I will let Angie demonstrate how she does this. She uses speech synthesis software to program the gloves to, instead of creating musical sounds, creating words and syllables.
Hi, join us for free sign language class is where you can learn how to talk with these gloves.
Well, we practice with our...
So that is voice sign, run by Angie Watson, if you want to go a bit further into that. Angie is aiming to have the first sign language system in the world with one sign for every word in the English language. And obviously this steps outside of people needing to know traditional sign language to be able to understand what's being communicated. So really exciting possibilities going on there as well. And so I'm just going to give you a kind of brief semi-autoethnographic introduction to my own journey into motion sensor music. So I was prompted by an injury to my hearing a couple of years ago to start looking into ways that I could get physical feedback while I was playing electronic music. And the gloves have haptic feedback built in, so I can set that to certain parameters that I need to stay within. And this had an additional benefit. I've had long-term issues with my skin, which sometimes, up till recently, were leaving me really restricted in how I could move at all. And so when the gloves came along, we found that not only did it have the benefit with the hearing side of things, but on the days where I could only maybe move my hands a tiny bit and I couldn't use the rest of my body, I could then reprogram what I was being communicated through what we use MIDI messages, so that I could still perform the music that I wanted to, but with whatever range of music that I had on the day. And then beyond these limitations that I was trying to get around, I discovered and experienced the transformative power of turning not just movement into music, but also music performance into something which felt like a more expressive human experience of creating. So when I started a couple of years before in electronic music, similarly to Imogen, I felt the frustration of kind of standing relatively still when you're playing like on a laptop or a synthesizer. And suddenly I could dance the music in a way that I'd always felt when I was performing it, but normally being kind of tied to the buttons and pads that I needed to use. It's also transformed the composition process for me. I'm finding that as I'm creating music, I'm feeling that I have a more expressive way of doing this. It reminds me more of my first instrument. I started on the cello, but with the additional vast possibilities that electronic music allows for. And it also turns the human body into a rather incredible musical instrument that you can use in whichever way you want. So Donna Haraway's Cyborg Manifesto, Cyborg metaphor even, can be extended here beyond the body as a cyborg, but also the body as an electronic instrument. People sometimes, when I tell them about the gloves, they say, oh, so it's kind of like a theremin. And I say, I am the theremin. I've become the theremin. And with Venus Matrix's idea of hijacking the toys from the techno cowboys, this is something that I've also experienced within the electronic music scene. It's still a relatively male-dominated scene. A lot of music technology is more broadly. MPhil have built this incredible community. We meet every other week through Zoom. It's incredibly supportive and collaborative. And it feels like a stark contrast to a lot of the communication that you do have within the kind of the technology side of music, which can be rather male-dominated and a little bit less collaborative, sometimes, shall we say. And yeah, the MPhil group is beautiful. People from all over the world are collaborating with each other, supporting each other, helping each other learn. I do not come from a tech background, and they have been incredibly supportive and taught me a huge deal. So yeah, I'm very appreciative of the support that they have as well. So I'm at the beginning of this project. I performed my first gig with the gloves last month. I'm starting to explore how the transformation of my body as an instrument can draw inspiration from the kinds of feminist artists and activists that inspire me, people like Sister Act and Arzu, and using our body as a tool and something that empowers us rather than something that we need to feel restricted or self-conscious or insecure about. So my background before music was in dance, so this has been a great opportunity for me to bring these different loves together, and creating music in this kind of way is allowing me to rethink my relationship with my body as a dancer, with the shapes that I'm making not being primarily about how they look, but more importantly what they're doing in the music and how it feels, because that becomes such a big part of both the composition and the performance process. And through this has got me reflecting on ways that I was brought up in dance and ways that I was taught to dance, how much of this looking back was actually incredibly restricted, how much of it felt angled at the male gaze and about being attractive or elegant or feminine. So I have tried to begin reimagining ways that I could dance, which is all about destabilizing the male gaze, drawing from ideas like Sadie Plant's cyberfeminism and how using the technology that we have available, we can step out of these patriarchal restrictions that have been placed on us within dance. Dance itself has been slower to maybe analyze the impact of gaze theory within it than some areas like film theory. Susan Manning has written about the steps and the lengths that dance still needs to go to address this. And things like the Dance Data Project to look at power imbalances within dance. So whilst we may have, for example, within ballet performance, primarily female dominated amongst the performers themselves, but then if you look at the powers of positions of power, shall we say, such as the choreographers, artistic directors, this is still predominantly male. Choreographers sitting at 71% male, which has a massive impact on the way that the performers are able to engage with their own practice. So motion sensor music technology makes the composer also the choreographer and does it all through an empowered, self-determined body. I think the positive effects of this has potential therapeutic applications within things like music therapy, dance movement therapy. So yeah, there's a lot to explore, and like I say, I am at the beginning of all of this. So within this performance, I'm going to take a journey through freeing ourselves from the restrictiveness that we can sometimes have with our body image, both in and outside of dance. And if we're going to free ourselves through dance, then what might that look like, and how do we step outside the further restrictions that are put on us within dance performance? So I'm going to just give you a little demonstration, get the gloves on, and reconnect those. Quick little costume change.
Yoshe, do you want this black now?
Yes, I think so, thank you. So there is a lot more that can be done with these gloves. Like I say, second performance ever going on today, so you are seeing the beginnings of all of this. For today, I'm going to be controlling effects, volumes, bringing instruments in and out, and looping those. Yeah. So volume and effects primarily across the instruments here. Everything that you're hearing has been written with the gloves, apart from the drum part, which is consistent throughout, and that was programmed in. So there's parts where, when I've been composing it, it definitely feels more human, i.e. there's flaws in it, than when I've been previously just programming things into a computer. And I use the note matrix to program the things that you're hearing. So that's something where you can set different fingers and different postures to notes, so you can play like air piano or different formations with your hands. You saw Chris Halpin using the note matrix live, and he's going toot, 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 toot. Eventually I will also be doing that live, but yeah, to start with, this is volume effects and things controlled through the gloves. So if I show you just a little.
Why don't you?
So you can see.
Why don't you sit like a lady?
I'm using that to bring in the synthesizer. So yeah, I think I'll just basically get on with it, and people can ask questions. Oh yeah. Good shout. That'll hit me in the face partway through otherwise. And yeah, we should have a wee bit of time after for questions. It's the exciting thing with new technology. It can all go completely wrong at any minute. You'll get to experience that.
Why don't you sit like a lady? Put your knees together.
Back straight, head high. Not like that.
Stand upright, you're too short to slouch. More ladylike.
More confident.
That's a little domineering.
Dance properly.
Point your toes.
More.
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 Suck in your bum.
Stick out your chest.
Slut.
You'd be much prettier if you smiled.
Not like that. You're not thin enough.
You're not curvy enough.
You're not enough.
You're too much.
Could you make yourself smaller? Smaller.
Smaller.
Do you think you could take up less space? Less.
More.
Less. More. Less. More. Less. More.
Why aren't you getting this?
Be better.
Be prettier.
Be the person you were before they started looking at you. So they can enjoy looking at you better.
Not like that.
Not like that. Not like that. Not like that. Not like that. Not like that. Not like that. Not like that. Not like that. Not like that. Not like that. Not like that. Not like that. Not like that. Not like that. Not like that. Not like that. Not like that. Not like that. Not like that. Not like that. Not like that. Not like that. Not like that. Not like that. Not like that. Not like that. Not like that. Not like that.
amazing to see. Do you want to take a couple of questions now?
Yeah, can
Yeah?
I just time, yeah.
Anybody want to ask anything, Yoshe, about what you just see?
You probably mentioned it, but okay, bypass. How long have you had them? So I know you said that's the second performance.
So I got my first one towards the end of 2020, and then I got my second one like a few months ago. I had to kind of save up for the second one for a little bit in between. But yeah, so about a year and a bit and a few months. But it's still all quite new. I've had to learn the programming side of it from scratch, so it's, yeah, early days. Hey.
Yes, that was amazing. I'm sorry if you already mentioned this, but how exactly do they work? Is it that one frequency or a tone is being run through it and then the movements manipulated, the wavelength, sort of like a theremin or something? Or what?
Yeah, so it's like anything that you set to it. So I'm using effects on some of the frequencies and changing the volume. And what it is these have got sensors all the way along the fingers, so you can program a variety of different postures. And then you're using the postures in combination with different movements. And what it's doing, are you familiar with MIDI, like in electronic music? So it's sending MIDI messages, and then you choose which MIDI messages you want to set to which different parameters.
Wow.
And
And so when
program
you
that
make a
in.
particular posture, it'll trigger that?
Yeah, so you can set any postures that you want to anything within MIDI, which in electronic music is pretty much everything you can like you can control with MIDI. So yeah, there's a lot of scope for it.
I love that theme of like women not being good enough. Where are the women getting these messages from?
Like everywhere. Yeah, I mean all the obvious. Yeah, it is. I mean, I think it's something that I've struggled with for a long time in various ways, and then I thought this is something I should actually tackle in my art, because usually that's what ends up helping. And yeah, just all the kind of cliched. I've got a little sister who's like growing up in a even more body obsessed world than I was growing up in, and it's become one of those things where I need to start, putting my money where my mouth is and actually dedicating myself to the kinds of things that bother me. So yeah, I worry for all of us, but I worry for like some of the stuff that they're growing up with, and I think it's particularly, social media has its good and bad sides, but they're on camera all the time, and I can't imagine being like that age and just constantly being watched. Like, it was bad enough being that age without it. So I think like we get social media, other media, culture, people, it's just so like ingrained in kind of what we're all expected to live up to all the time. So yeah, I'm trying to.
It's really good to watch.
Thank you.
That really works.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
I think also it's interesting what you said about a dance context, because I presume, like me, you did ballet from being quite small.
Yeah, ballet was what I started in.
Yeah. So anybody who's been in ballet, you are so critically conscious of everything about how you move, your size, absolutely everything. So for women in the dance trade, it's particularly problematic, I think.
Yeah, it's got a long way to go with that being something that's actually like healthy and being able to be kind of positive and supportive.
All body shapes should be celebrated.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, totally.
So, do you think would you see it as a kind of synesthesia? It's an artificial synesthesia?
I haven't thought about it like that, but yeah, it kind of is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like got links to all kinds of talk about it later.
Yeah. Well, there was going to be a visual. There was projections for this as well. Unfortunately, the visual software is also a very new thing, and it was crashing everything and corrupting files and things. So left that part for now. But at some point, there will also be visuals that are controlled with the gloves. So it really can be. You can have kind of all of your senses controlled through movement. Sorry, I'm not the chair. I need to stop taking questions. Sorry.
You're fine.
I'm normally a teacher, so I just.
Where's the third performance going to be? Is it Northampton, or are you taking it around?
I think it's literally just been booked in. The Happy Hood are doing a launch next month. They've asked me to play at.
Right.
So I think that will be the next one. Yeah, I didn't really book anything beyond the first couple of ones because I wasn't sure if any of it would work. So I'm sort of testing it out. But yeah, they've just booked in. We should play at their launch thing next month. So that will be in Northampton.
Great.
Brilliant. And then we had one.
Yeah, so literally everything about that was amazing. The presentation was amazing. So I will be talking to you at length later also. But the one thing I want to ask now is that you focused on, because it's programmed, and you talked about the choreography of it, and so there's a very controlled movements. Is there scope in the community for improvisational kind of aspects to it?
Absolutely, yeah. So again, with this being kind of early on, and I wanted to get certain like movements into it, and then allow like a little bit of space for improvisation as well, partly to counter like if there was a bit there where some of it didn't work, and so I sort of changed some of the movements on the spot, which hopefully I'll just smoothly get across okay. But there's room for improvisation with it, and you can also, some of the Glovers, we call ourselves, are doing like entirely improvised stuff. There's a woman who does, Mary Liz Bendo, who does like space science outreach stuff, and she's doing like all improvised stuff, kind of ethereal soundscapes and things in like amazing space station settings and stuff. So yeah, there's just a whole range of, what I'm finding is like the more I program, which takes me a long time because I'm not a tech person, but the more I program, the more spontaneity and freedom I have like in the dance itself. So having like backups of, if this doesn't work, I can do this instead, and kind of working out, because some of it literally, it all goes through Wi-Fi, so if the Wi-Fi is like being slightly competed for and stuff, then suddenly some of it just kind of won't come through quite on time, and you just have to change it on the spot. But yeah, programming lots of stuff to allow for spontaneity, I think, is the way I'm trying to go with it.
Yeah.
That's almost perfect timing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.